This or that. We are going to be doing a bunch of bottle-to-bottle face-offs today, so it's going to be a fun one. I'm Jeff. This is Gwhisky. Stick around. So, this or that, this is a pretty simple concept. I asked my patrons to put forward a series of bottles in sets of 2, and then really quickly, I'm going to choose a favorite. All of these bottles should have something in common, maybe it's price or age statement, flavor profile, maturation, whatever. Basically, we're not going to be pitting an Ardbeg against the Glencairn. I'll say which one I prefer, briefly explain why, and then we're going to jump right into the next one, so we're basically going to speed run through this. As always, I do have a mystery pour in the glass. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video, and I'll share with you what that is. Your hint for today is that this is a bottle that will show up on today's list. It is a coastal distillery. It's from Diageo, and I often say it's one of my favorite distilleries. This one is their most popular core range offering, and it is a beauty. So make sure you stick around, and I think that's about it. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into our comparisons. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, we'll kick things off with Glengoyne 21 against Glenfarclas 25, and that one is a tie. I know we're not off to a great start. I like both. They're decent. Neither one of these two blows me away, but they are both well-made, well-aged sherried whiskeys. Yeah. Next. Next is Glencairn 15 against Glen Scotia 15. Now, this one's a little bit tough. They do have, of course, the same age statement and in my market a similar price point, but flavor-wise, they're pretty different. I have not tried the more recent versions of Glen Scotia since the rebrand, but going off of memory, I'm going to go Glencairn. For our next round, we're moving into some sherry, some big sherry. We've got the Glengowachy 10-year-old cask strength against the GlenDronach cask strength. Now, the big question here is which batch are we talking about, but I'll just assume we're talking about the more recent versions of both. Last I checked, I think the GlenDronach cask strength series stopped at 12. I don't think they made any more after that, so I did manage to try the 12. It was delicious. I've tried a recent batch of the Glenallachie 10. For this one, I'm going to go GlenDronach, even though it is probably younger, most certainly younger. Just, it was much bigger, louder, it was more fun, and that intensity edges out the Glenallachie. Both great cherry bombs, though. Next, we've got Ardbeg Wee Beastie against Lagavulin 8. I'm going with Lagavulin 8 here. I do like the Ardbeg Wee Beastie, but it is more of a beast-y, and I think Lagavulin 8 strikes a better balance. It's still young and feisty, but Lagavulin has such a beautiful distillate, so while it's rough and tumble on the surface, there is an elegance to it that, for me, edges out the Wee Beastie. Both excellent, though. Glenfarclas 15 against Tamdhu 15. Now, this one is pretty straightforward for me. I do like the Glenfarclas 15. I think it's a very honest, old-school style of sherry, but I think the Tamdhu 15 is just on another level. This one is Port Charlotte OLC, which is Oloroso cask matured, versus Port Charlotte PAC, which is a Pauillac wine cask maturation. And for this one, I'm going to go with the OLC. The OLC is one of my favorites from the Cask Exploration series, and typically I do prefer a sherry maturation to a wine maturation, although to be fair, these ones are pretty close. Next, we're keeping with the same series, the Port Charlotte Cask Exploration series. We have the SYC, which is a Syrah wine cask, against the PMC, which is a Pomerol wine cask. Here, I think I'm going to go with the Pomerol. Again, very close. Both have a lot of very deep, winey, earthy notes. Both are delicious. And we're going to keep that peat theme going with Ardnahoe inaugural release, which is a 5-year-old against Lagavulin 8. This Lagavulin 8 keeps on getting pitted against 5-year-olds. Same answer here. I'm going to go with the Lagavulin 8. I do love the Ardnahoe. I think it's fantastic stuff. That brand has a bright future, but I just love Lagavulin that much. Old Pulteney 15 against Oban 14. This is an interesting one. Now, you guys know I love my Obans. The Oban 14 I think is a classic. And if you go back on the channel and you look at the scores that I've given to both of those bottles, I will have scored the Oban higher. However, in this circumstance, I'm going to go with Old Pulteney. Old Pulteney does give us a higher ABV, comes in at 46%. It still gives us these wonderful coastal notes. Old Pulteney has a great distillate. The sherry's not too over the top. Old Pulteney 15 is good. I think it's underrated. Scarabeus against Longrow. For me, this one's pretty easy. I'm going Longrow. I think Scarabeus is good. Longrow is better. It's more refined, better distillate. We have a wonderful, well-made peated OB at a good price point, if you can find it at a good price point. Next, we have Glenmurray Sherry Cask Finish against Macallan Double Oak 12. Now, this was put forward by an online buddy who is shopping for whiskey the right way. This guy is a hawk. He is always looking for the best bang for buck whiskey out there, and you gotta respect that. Glenmorangie, to their credit, does offer some of the cheapest, very decent single malts, but they're always good and they're never great, and that applies to the sherry cask finish. So Murray is surprisingly cheap for what it offers, and Macallan, as it often is expensive for what it offers. I could be slippery and say, oh, Glenmorangie wins on value, but since we're just talking about whiskey here, the Macallan 12 is a better whiskey, hands down. All right, this one is a fun one. Benromach 12-year-old cask strength against Springbank 12 cask strength. For those of you who don't know, here in Taiwan, we have a Taiwanese exclusive from Benromach that's 12 years old and cask strength, and it is not only delicious, but it is shockingly inexpensive. And if value were a deciding factor, it would easily win, but for quality and enjoyment, I'm still going to stick with the Springbank, even though I think that Benromach 12 is magic. And listen, I'm not usually a big sherry forward kind of guy, but the Springbank 12-year-old has always been, it's always tickled my fancy. Keeping the Springbank theme going, we've got Springbank 10 against Kilkerran 12. This is always a fun debate. It's always a good question to put out to you guys, so you guys can let me know which one down below you prefer. But for me, honestly, I'm going to be boring. I'm going to be lame and say I like them equally. It's really just a mood thing. It's a tie. Next, we have Ardnamurchan 10 against Ardnamurchan Palanois Special Release. Both of these have spent time in those Palanois champagne casks. The Palanois Special Release is cask strength, and I think it's better. In fact, it's my favorite Ardnamurchan. The 10-year-old is older, but it doesn't taste older. In fact, in a side-by-side, I would guess that the Palanois is the older of the two, and it's got just more intensity and a better flavor profile, so for me, wins hands down. Powers John's Lane 12 against Redbreast 12 cask strength. This is a really interesting one. Both of them are out of the Middleton distillery. They both have the same age statement. Powers comes in at 46%. The cask strength 12-year-old is, of course, cask strength. I'm going to go with Powers. The Redbreast is, of course, bigger, and I think most guys would prefer bigger breasts or Redbreasts, but I'm a card-carrying member of the Itty Bitty Powers Committee. I do love the Redbreast 12, but it can be a little bit heavy-handed with those butterscotchy notes. The Powers does come off lighter, still substantial, still 46% ABV, but it's got a more delicate balance of flavors. And hey, I know that's going to be a controversial take. I'm sure Redbreast would be most people's answer, but not me. No, I'm different and I'm special. Next, we're going back to Springbank. It's Springbank 10 against Springbank Local Barley. Local Barley if you can find it. All right, this next one is really cool. It's a great question. We have Port Charlotte Local Barley against Kilchoman 100% Isla. Again, this one kind of depends on batches. The batches do vary, but I'm going to go with the Kilchoman here. I like the Local Barley, but the Kilchoman 100% Isla is beautiful stuff, and I think it's really underrated. In fact, it's one of my favorites from Kilchoman. Our next one is Oban 14 against Talisker 10. I'm going to go with the Oban 14 here. Talisker might have stood a shot a few years back before they rebranded and changed the formula. It's not what it used to be. It would have been a lot closer, but no, definitely for this one, Oban. Okay, this one is Mortlock 12 against Craigellachie 13. This one is an easy one. Easy win for the Craigellachie. I think the Mortlock is solid, very pleasant. It's nice stuff, great distillate, but Craigellachie 13, man, that stuff is just unstoppable in the budget category. Glencadam 10 against Compass Box Orchard House. This is a really interesting question. It's one I got to think about. Honestly, quality-wise, the two are quite close. I have more of a history with Glencadam 10, so I do want to say I prefer that one, but really, I think it's got to be a tie here. That Orchard House is beautiful stuff. So is the Glencadam, both. Next is Glendronach 12 against Tamdhu 12. This is an interesting one. I would have thought Tamdhu would be the easy win, but I went to a tasting recently where we drank the Glendronach 12 blind, and I ended up really enjoying it. I know the brand is not in its best standing when it comes to its relationship with enthusiasts these days, but I thought it was really good. That said, the silky delicacy that we get with the Tamdhu does mean that Tamdhu takes the win here. Keeping that sherry theme going, we've got Glenallachie 12 against Royal Bracla 12. Interesting choice. Royal Bracla 12 is a bottle that I hyped up quite a bit a few years back. I'll admit I overhyped it, but I still think it's a good bottle. So is Glenallachie 12. Both of them are extremely cask dominated. You're not going to get much distillate in there, but for this style, I think both are excellent. It's kind of tough to choose. I'm going to go with a tie. Moving on to something that is much more my speed, we're talking about Diageo Special Release Obans. Namely, we've got the Fox release that's 12 years old and the Space Rabbit release, which is 10 years old. Those are my two favorite Oban special releases, and I think both are absolutely spectacular. But if I've got to choose one, it'll be the Fox 12-year-old. That one was all refill bourbon, just really honest, beautiful distillate-driven stuff. Highly recommend it if you can still find it. It's a few years old now, but probably one of my favorite Obans ever. Our next one is kind of interesting because it's within the same brand. We have Craigellachie 13 against 17. For value, of course, the 13 wins, but when I do side-by-sides between the two, typically the 17 does come out on top. I do think it's slightly more refined. I like the sherry touch in there, but shockingly close, these two. All right, I think that's it for me today. I think we got through most of what my patrons put forward. We didn't get through all of them, but we still got through a lot. And this will be part one of an ongoing series just because I really like this idea. So it's a great question for you guys. If there are any whiskeys that you think would be a fun head-to-head, let me know what they are down below. And finally, if you stuck around to find out what the mystery pour is here, this is a bottle that actually showed up twice on this list. Once for the win, once for a loss. I said this is one of my favorite coastal whiskeys. What we're talking about is Oban 14. This one is such a classic. I absolutely love it. I don't love it as much as I used to. If you go back and check my review, I gave it an 89. I do think that's too high. It was too generous, but I am a sucker for this brand. I do love their distillate. This one, still think it's a classic, but I probably need to re-review it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will bring us to the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. And if you want to help out, if you want to help support via Patreon or PayPal, I'll make sure the links are listed down below. If you're already a supporter, thank you very much. Patrons over here. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.